Hey everyone, welcome to the astrology and energy update for the week of June 9th. Now, just like last week, I labeled as superconduction. This week, I'm labeling as tested. We are going to be tested, and we've already been tested since all that beautiful energy in the new moon. Right away, we went into some squares and oppositions, and that's going to continue through this week. So you've already kind of used to this energy, but let's presence what it means so that you can really use it to your advantage. I have to say, last week, after giving the transmission, I used my own advice for the week so many times when I was about ready to get caught up in all that Gemini spin out. I remembered, oh yeah, you did that transmission not to spin out. And I just did the thing that I said and pivoted out of the spin out. So I've noticed that a lot of people in the zeitgeist are posting about how there's so much on people's minds. And that is because we have still a stellium in Gemini, lots of Gemini energy. We won't be moving out of Gemini until the solstice and we go into Cancer season. So still, let's get the teaching and the message for this time. So there's 4 things I want to share about this week. I'm going to look at my notes. The first thing is Mars enters Taurus. So this is typically a slowdown because Mars has been in Aries, and that's Mars's home sign. Mars loves to go fast, go bold, to be the spark, to get things done. And moving into Taurus is a little bit like, it's a slowdown, but that's how we ground. So we're in Gemini. We have all these ideas, all these opportunities, and these mental constructs. And Taurus wants us to embody them, to bring them to Earth. And anytime we take ideas from the ethers and we ground it into something tangible, and I also call tangible things on the internet because they're products, but they require us to organize digital products, to make them through recordings like I'm doing here. So I call them tangible, even though we can't actually touch them, but they are a thing because the recording exists. And we've been doing that with Goddess Convergence inside, and also inside the Creators Academy. So you're going to hear me reference those programs as examples of what's been going on. And you can extrapolate that for yourself because Gemini has been a lot of thinking and a lot of details. You know, the Goddess Convergence that's happening on June 25th to 29th is like an incredible summit that has about 1.5 million details. So of course, I'm doing that in Gemini season this week. And there were times, like I said, that I would be on the verge of spinning out. And what I did was I called a friend, but I called a friend who also knew the subject matter area. I broke it down into one simple question, and I received their sage advice. And that just saved me from spinning out because I had these ideas that I was going to take in, like I was going to pivot on a totally different direction with a certain technology. And that would have been monumental. And she was like, no. So, you know, it just feels good. So those are the ways that we can stay the course when this Gemini mind wants to take over. And we still have some time in Gemini, so you could use that practice or like procedure. The other thing is to not act on it. And we said that around the new moon. Now is the time we're going to act, but we have a bunch of opposition and challenges this week. And as I said, we've already been having them, so you already understand the flavor of it. But let's talk more about Mars entering Taurus. I think that this signature energy of Mars entering Taurus is not only testing, but it's also a very important signature about our embodiment and our self-care. Self-care to me is on a soul level because what I notice, what nourishes my soul also gives me stamina in my body. And then there are simple body things that we have to do. That's the game we're playing here. So what I've noticed, and this is the yoga means union with these opposites. That's the yoga I've been working. So on here, and this is good for divine feminine women, on one side, we have this overworking that when we came from patriarchal structures and the way that we enslaved ourselves and we fed the machine just because someone told us, that this is how it went at our corporate job. I mean, I came from the law world and it was all billable hours, and you didn't have a job if you didn't bill a minimum of 2,000 hours a year. And to me, that was an unsustainable model. Being a Taurus rising, I hated that. But that was the enslavement that was happening. That was the model. And so we either fit the model, and that's really when you don't really value people, you make them fit a model. When you value people, you create a model that brings forward the most from them. But this was a patriarchal structure, and the law is very patriarchal, and it gets to be completely revamped. But that would be like the old example of burnout and overworking. And then we can swing to the whole other side. And we have this, now the divine feminine has got the message, and she like quit her job and divorced herself from all of those shoulds and have tos. And now she sits on the grass and meditates, and all the things, right? Does all the ritual practices, all the things, and has really restored her nervous system and her body back to wholeness. And then we throw in hormones, and then we got to do all that thing, right? So we have those two. And now what's happening is we're incorporating both. It's a both and we're coming into the middle. And that's the line that I have walked, or the pendulum in the middle that I have strived for during goddess convergence. Because there were times and are times when I need to stay up and finish something, even at 1 a.m., because it's due for someone else in the chain of events that I have teed up to get things done. And some of you know, I delayed the launch by a week. And that was an act of over here, the paying attention to what would it cost, not only me, but my team, if I had that earlier due date. So there's always calculations. And anyway, so the other calculation of staying up till 1 a.m., I really check in with my body, and I notice there are certain signature symptoms, sensations of overdoing it in my body. And you probably have the same. And they're distinct from what someone tells me that I should do for my body. Generally, I like to follow you're in bed by 10 p.m. And during a launch, that's just not realistic all the time. Sometimes I get up at 6 a.m. or 5:30 and I start working by 6, and I love too. But it's this yoga of the both and. So paying deep attention to what actually fuels my soul in this mission and gives me the energy to do the job. And it may not look like the supposed to thing. And it's different for everyone. If you're going through massive emotional turmoil or a health crisis, you have a different calculation to make. If you have children, you have a different calculation to make. So what I'm inviting is this sense of both and, because we tend to think that this place of walking on Mother Earth barefoot is the be all end all. But we're not here for just that. We're here for that. And I hope that message lands as an integration of both this masculine and this feminine, and taking it really to a healthy level instead of an enslaved level. And that's what we're really deconditioning in our systems. So I think that's Mars entering Taurus. Long story, but it gets to Mars entering Taurus. It's where the busyness meets the self-care. How are you doing the thing? Whether it's the kids or taking care of your parents or taking care of your hormones, getting your big project done, we had lots of deadlines inside of Goddess Convergence, and some women, wrote it right up until the end, and encountered tech obstacles. Isn't that the worst when you're trying to get something done and you have a tech obstacle? So all that life is just going to do that, and that creates resilience in us to get through an obstacle. I can't tell you how many emails I got that said, I came up with this obstacle, but I persevered and I got through it, and celebration, I did it. I love that, because now we have grit and we know ourselves as someone who, and we've learned something that we didn't know before that we really wouldn't have taken on. Like, who wants to take on tech? You do it because you have to do it, because it gets you where you want to go. These are all Mars and Taurus themes, because Taurus wants you to be there for the long haul. It doesn't really care that you've got a great idea. It wants to know, how is that idea embodied in 3 space, and how are you taking care of yourself as you do it? All right, so the second thing, let's move on to, we've had Venus, the Sun, and Mercury squaring Saturn in Pisces. We've already had a lot of that energy, so you already know how that feels. But this is, again, just to name it, this is, okay, big idea, new innovations coming through, new thoughts with Gemini, new moon, and then it's testing time. How committed are you really? Was it just an idea and now you're going to throw it out the window? And let's just even add in how realistic is your idea? How much money do you need to do it? Where are you at in your life to execute this? I mean, this is like a reality sandwich. I love Saturn for that, because Saturn delivers. I've had a lot of Saturn in my chart. So Saturn delivers. I'm in my second Saturn return. And yeah, things are challenging, but you don't really win the gold medal, just like grooving around the track. You don't. You win the gold medal by getting your butt up at 4 a.m. and doing the thing. So that is the beauty of when these benefic energies that we talked about last week encounter Saturn. Saturn's just going to make it real. So don't take it as, oh, I'm not supposed to do this. No, it's not a sign of that. It's like, how much do you want to do this? That's the better question. Okay, Mars is squaring Pluto to the 12th, and we talked about this last week. It's just the end of the desire to play small. You're tired of playing small. I guess I said that weird. You now no longer want to play small, or even if you never wanted to play small, but were playing small, you are up-leveling yourself. That's probably better to say, because a lot of people here have been up-leveling themselves. But this Mars squaring Pluto is saying, let's take it to the next level. I don't want to play small anymore, because probably that Gemini new moon got you thinking about new opportunities, new ideas. Some came into your field and you want to take them, and you've been tested and you're committed. And this is where Pluto's like, all right, let's do it then. And so you also may be tired with this transit as well. And don't worry about it. It's going to pass, and also just be in action, some action. That's what it's asking. Let's move on to the final transits, and that's where the Sun and Mercury are sextiling Chiron. And sextiling is a good geometric angle. So this is the time, Chiron, the wounded healer. We've mentioned Chiron so much in our journey from March, April, and May, and here into June, that this is the moment where we want to tell our story. Mercury is about the messenger, and the Sun, your purpose. And so your purpose has up-leveled. Your wounds I'm getting chills saying it, your wounds have come to a place of healing, many of them. Like, there's still layers of the onion, and we're going to find that out as we live. But we've come to a place, and we get to really acknowledge ourselves for how far we've come. And this is the time to share your story. So even if you don't have a community to share your story with, maybe you can journal about it. Maybe you share it with your close friend. Take some stock and look at who you are now because of all the healing. And what's your medicine? What's the sacred medicine that this wound and the healing of this wound has brought you into, as in the form of a purpose, the sun, your purpose? So this is where I say in my business courses, your mess is your message. I love that. And this is where we have the phoenix, the rising phoenix, coming out of the ashes archetype, where we are not now where we were. Even if you didn't have a full-on burn to the ground, you're not where you were. And maybe you're just coming out of that and so much is yet to see. But there's something you can celebrate. And this transit wants you to celebrate it as in the form of a message, in the form of words and communication. So take that on this week, have some fun with it. And just remember that there's always a way to look at these transits, and that means a way to look at our lives as we encounter resistance and obstacles and just shit not working out. There's always a way to see it in a light of who you're becoming as a result of this. We're going to move into the rest of the year with a lot of retrogrades. So that will slow things down, and that in itself could be frustrating. So the speed is frustrating, the slow could be frustrating, but instead of getting frustrated, tune in to what is the rhythm and the tempo that's being asked of you right now, and calibrate your being to that, and just notice inside how that feels, because everything is truly in divine timing. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you on the next video. Lots of love.